Okay, thanks. So, okay, welcome. This is our Empathy Cafe, and we're recording this for educational purposes. This is, oh, we got someone else joined?
No.
No, just, okay. So I'm Edwin Rutch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, and this is an ongoing series of empathy circles that we do every week at this time, 10 a.m. Pacific, to bridge the social and political divides and to build a culture of empathy. And to build a culture of empathy, we mean that everyone gets heard and seen and acknowledged to their satisfaction, and that we really try to connect with our common humanity across, all spectrums of everyone on all political views. And our intention is also to scale up these empathy circles. So we're trying to spread them as widely as possible, and even trying to get the politicians, like take it to Congress or maybe the Parliament or whatever your social, your political system is. We want to bring this practice into those social, into the political world. And so also invite the viewers, if you're a viewer of this on Facebook, YouTube, or social media, that you can also become involved in this. You can go to empathyscircle.com, and there's information on how you can take part in one of these, and also how you can become a facilitator, because we really like to train as many people as possible to be facilitators of this practice. And to begin with, maybe we can start with short introductions of everyone, your name, where you're from, and perhaps any political leanings, and I'll model that. I'm Edwin Rutch, Director of the Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, as I mentioned, and I live in El Cerrito, California, which is in the San Francisco Bay Area. And politically, I'm on the, I would say, the empathic side. I've sort of left the political sides and now on the empathic side. Bob, I'll just go and just select people across the window here. Bob, would you introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Edwin. Bob Brown from Thousand Oaks, California in the United States. I am a pilgrim on the journey to human wholeness, and I identify politically as a socialist. And Edwin Rutch has been one of the best teachers of my life.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. And Susan?
I'm Susan Campbell, and I'm from Sebastopol, California. I'm a psychologist and relationship coach, and my political leanings are progressive. And when you mention socialist, Bob, I go way over in that direction too. And yet, my biggest concern is the polarization in this world, not just in our country. And that's why I'm part of this movement.
Thanks. Sophia?
Yeah, I'm Sophia, and I live in Sweden. My political views, I vote mostly to the left, but I don't see myself as left. I just agree with most of what they are saying. So I would say that I'm more empathic, because I can understand different kinds of views. And I've been practicing MVC for 2 years almost.
Thank you. Bill?
Yeah. Bill, I live in the East Bay in San Francisco. I'm a retired special ed teacher. I reject a lot of the political characterizations, but for the purposes of clarity here, I'd be on the left, but but it's complicated.
Okay, thanks. Ganga?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Am I audible to you?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm really delighted to join Edwin's group. My name is Ganga. I'm from Bangalore, India. I have been a leadership coach and an OD consultant for over a decade. I'm self-employed, and I have been an NVC practitioner since 2013. In terms of political leaning, all I can say is whichever candidate or party is dedicated to building an inclusive space, I would cheer for them. And in my experience, I've noticed that there are no stances that are rigid forever. It's a lot of alliances and opportunistic, teaming up from time to time. So I want to keep my affiliations open and be with the group that wants to build a one world family.
Thank you. Ellen, I believe is.
Yes, hi. I'm Ellen. I'm in Brooklyn, New York. Politically, I'd say progressive, somewhere on the left around the sphere of socialism, also empathic. And this is one of the very few issues where I feel like I can really feel on a heart level all sides across, whatever the political identification is.
Okay, thank you. Carolina?
Hello, my name is Karolina Kubiak. I'm calling from Poland, north of Poland, Gdańsk. It's a harbor city. My political leanings are radical left, really radical left. But with Gandhian methods, Gandhian means. I actually believe that the Gandhi was very radical in his social and economical view, and that's who am I. What about the topic? I think I'm pro-choice. Definitely pro-choice, and I don't like these labels pro-life, pro-choice. It's anti-choice or pro-choice for me. And I'm pro-choice, however, it's complicated, as Bill likes to say.
Okay, great. Thank you, everyone. And we had sent out the information on how to do an empathy circle, so hopefully you had a chance to review that. But we'll give a short intro to it. Would you like to do that, Susan? Do you like to do that while I create the breakout rooms?
Sure. So once we get into our smaller groups, each person will have 5 minutes to speak on this topic in whatever way is closest to your beliefs, feelings, in your heart. And there'll be the speaker, then while the speaker's speaking, that speaker has to pick a reflector, which means a reflective listener, who will speak back to the speaker after the speaker says only a few sentences. So the speaker has to kind of pause, not do the whole 5 minutes at once. And the reflector can also say, let me pause you there, see if I got that. And the reflector is basically letting the speaker know, this is what I heard you say. You might even add your own words to it, or you can use the speaker's words. Both of those things work. You can find your own style, but it's trying to show the speaker that you heard them. And then the other role are the observers, the space holders, and I forgot what you call those officially in this model, but we are witnesses, just holding space and participating silently. So those are the 3 roles. And once the speaker finishes and the reflector, every time the reflector speaks back to the speaker, you say, did I hear you? And the speaker needs to say, yes, I feel heard. And if you don't feel heard, you repeat or clarify what you said until you feel fully heard. And by the end of the 5 minutes, we will want the speaker to be able to say to the reflector, I feel fully heard. So the words are, I feel heard, or I feel fully heard. And the reflector will ask, did I hear you? That kind of thing. Or do you feel heard? And the reflector then is the speaker. Whoever was just a reflector is now the speaker, and we go around the circle several times perhaps in a 2-hour period. So everybody will get at least a couple of times probably to be all of those roles.
Yeah, and when you become the speaker, you select who you want to speak to. And also another tip is that if you're the listener and it seems like the speaker is saying, too much that for you to sort of, be able to hold, you can say, can you just pause and let me reflect back what I'm hearing you say. So those are just a few tips. The best thing is just to jump into it, and we'll have 2 groups, and Susan will facilitate one and I'll facilitate the other, and I guess we'll both be timekeepers as well. And I hold up a little sign here that says 5 minutes
I have one too.
as a reminder. I went all blurry. Let's see. That's really out of focus. So yeah, I think I think we're ready to break out into our groups, and there'll be 4 of us in each circle, and about 10-15 minutes before the end we'll come back together, and then we'll just do a quick debrief, and then we'll close. So with that, I think I have the rooms created here, so we shall go into those rooms now.
And I'll hit record. Edwin.
Oh yeah, and I put that you saw that. I gave you record permissions this time. So yeah, we'll be recording each of these. So okay, you should be going into, and our topic is abortion, pro-life, pro-choice. Okay.
Sure.
Okay, great. So, let me get the time clock here, stopwatch. One second. Setting it for 5 minutes. Okay, so we can start. Whoever would like to start, you get 5 minutes. Select who you want to speak to. I don't know, Bill, do you want to start just to model it?
Sure.
In case, so.
Okay, and I guess I'll speak to Edwin.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right.
So pro-choice, pro-life, we've talked about this before, but yeah. It's
right. Okay. Well, I was, I'm a little long in the tooth. So I was alive before abortion was legal. And my father was an OBGYN. And he worked in a New York hospital called Bellevue. And before abortion was legal, he would come in sometimes in tears and talk about, there was a ward, just one ward, dedicated to young women, otherwise healthy, dying because of botched abortions. And so when that change came about, it was seen as the women are going to get abortions anyway, and it was seen as humanitarian. I certainly understand people's, the conversation about when life begins. But I find that, things like contraception, I mean, I agree with the Clintons who said that abortion should be legal and rare. I don't think it's the preferred form of birth control for anyone. I just don't see why anybody would want to, choose that. So I'll stop there.
Okay. So what I'm just hearing is that you were, sort of aware before abortion became legal, and that your father was an OBGYN, so very, dealing with this issue, and that there's this whole ward in the hospital where he worked, which is for women who had botched abortions. And so it was very meaningful. He saw it on a regular basis. And so when it became legal, he was, it was a very positive thing for him. and that you also feel that abortion should be very rare, like the Clintons are saying, and that it shouldn't be seen as a form of birth control.
Yeah.
A preferred.
Yeah, I mean,
like
what I don't understand, while I take the pro-life people at their word, what I don't understand is why they oppose Planned Parenthood and birth control, because Planned Parenthood, I mean, I haven't seen the data on it, but I would be willing to bet that they prevent or more abortions every year than almost any other organizations. Not prevent, but, you know, give women birth control so that they don't have to get to that station, you know, that situation.
Yeah, so you're just don't understand the why people are against Planned Parenthood, because they're actually helping stop abortions from happening.
Right. Thank you, Edwin. I feel very heard.
Okay, then clear. Then I'll speak to Sophia.
Yes.
Okay, so for me, I feel a little disappointed that there was a group called Students for Life, and one of their representatives was going to be here, so more the pro-life side. I was hoping to be more representation, but they just said, he couldn't make it, and he was going to try to bring others, and they didn't show up, it looks like. So I'm a little disappointed that we didn't get more of the both sides.
Yeah, so you are feeling disappointed about not having the variety of people talking about their point of view. Yeah, maybe you also are feeling that this discussion is going to become sort of unequal.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And the last two we did, this is the third time we've done this topic, and the last two we did have representatives from this, you know, from the pro-life side, from that group, and it really was a rich discussion. It really made the discussion go a lot deeper.
Yeah, so you also have the experience of having both sides being represented, and you felt that was very value, something of value.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I was trying to do this topic. We did the topic previously, then, you know, had some other topics, then did it again. And I'm trying now to do it sort of back to back this week and next week, because I'm finding to bring the communities together takes a lot of work. You got to reach out, you got to promote it, you got to invite them. And so maybe even making an empathy circle on this topic on a regular basis might be a way to create a container and environment for the sides to come together so that it's sort of ongoing. So it's sort of a strategy for, you know, how to hold this discussion more effectively.
Right. I'm not sure I'm understanding you now. What is it that you've been doing before?
We've had the topic, but we do other topics. So we have the pro-life, pro-choice, climate change, patriarchy. So there's been a lot of different topics. We haven't just focused on the pro-life, pro-choice topic. And I'm thinking it'd be good to have one group that only addresses this, so that we can start bringing, you know, regular meetings on one topic. So it's just an approach, how to use empathy circles to address this topic.
Okay, so you want to make it sort of regular meetings about the same topic, so that you can sort of merge in it? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so kind of create a place for because it takes a lot of outreach to the organizations, the pro-life and pro-choice, to outreach, it takes time. So, you know, to do it ongoing might help to kind of bring the sides together. So it's sort of,
Yeah, to sort of gather in all the people and to,
by having this is a
Yeah,
regular topic. Yeah, so that's why I'm doing it 2 meetings, this meeting and next week as well, is to kind of try that out. So this is a bit of the structure, what I'm trying to do here, not so much the topic itself. So.
Okay, so you're sort of trying out different structures to see what works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ellen, your sound isn't on.
Oh.
Oh,
yes.
it's on.
Yes.
It's on.
Oh, okay. Okay, and I apologize. I've been going back and forth a little bit. I haven't had my coffee yet today, so.
No problem. I'm actually also feeling a little, not disappointed, but sad that because I really want to understand the pro-life side. And it's not that common that people in Sweden are against abortion. So I rarely talk to those people. It's so out of the values here in Sweden. So when I hear people, the kind of things that are happening in the States, I'm just like, to me that is Stone Age thinking. So yeah, so I really want to connect with these people to try to understand them.
So you're saying that you also feel sad because everyone here seems to be of a similar mindset that you're frequently exposed to, and you really want to understand people who think differently on this. And where you live, most people are pro-choice, and you look at what's happening in the States, and it seems very longing to, you have a longing to understand and to speak with people who think differently. Is that, you have a longing to understand? And
Yes.
Did I hear you?
Yes, you did. And also, I had the experience of going through an abortion. So I can really understand the people that have done abortion. And I'm also thinking, because I was young back then, when I did the abortion, and if I would have gotten a child at that age, I would probably fuck that child up, to be very, very honest. And I'm so happy that abortion is an option, because you do make mistakes when you're young. And I that was a painful experience. So I'm not going to experience that again. But yeah, you can reflect.
Yeah, so you had an abortion when you were younger, and you were very grateful that that option was available to you, and you felt that you would not have been able to really mother that child and give them the life that they deserved. So you were grateful that you had that choice. So you can also really, on a felt sense, connect with other people who have made that choice.
Yeah, and I can also connect to those children who are being born and being unwanted children, because that must be a horrible life to even if the parents doesn't express that like outwardly, you can sense that as a kid, and I wouldn't want that for any kid.
So you also kind of feel for the children who are born to families that didn't feel ready to have them, and that even if the parents don't speak that, the kids can probably sense it. And yeah, it's got to feel pretty awful.
Yeah,
You feel heard?
I feel heard. I just want to, is there time to add one thing? Yeah. I just want to add some thoughts about interception, because when Bill did say that people who are against abortions are also against interception, like that, I just like, oh my God, I really want to talk to these people, because it really makes no sense to me. So I just want to mention that, yeah, I feel kind of off with what is happening in the world.
Mm-hmm. And by interception, you mean like contraception?
Oh, is that the name? Sorry.
That
contraception.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So you're having a hard time that there's so many people who are so against abortion, yet something that you see could be a real solution to that, they are also against. So it's really hard to sit with that.
Right. Right. Yeah. I feel heard. Thank you so much.
Okay. So yes, I speak to, has everyone already been spoken to? Or I speak to Bill, I think? Okay. Oh, okay. All right. And I'm sorry, can I bounce away for just a second? I'm sorry.
Okay.
Looks like the cat needs some tending.
Yeah.
Okay, I apologize. So, yeah, politically, I've always been very much on the left. Also interested in, natural healing and aspects of whole body and things like that. And about a year and a half ago, I took a 9-month it was an online and personal journey that was around connect. But it really gave me a sense, more than I'd already had, that whole process from the first moment is, I really understand why people feel that it is a deep and sacred process. And sometimes I see in the pro-choice movement, there's like nothing even.
Sorry, I just want to. You're kind of breaking up, so I may be missing something. So
Okay.
rather than I'll try to reflect what I understand, so you can get heard clearly. Okay. So you broke up a little bit, but basically you've really taken this issue to heart, and you've done a lot of studying. There was a 9-month course, and
right.
And you really and what I feel behind the static and the breaking up is that you have a deep feeling and desire to connect with people of all sides of the issue, to get underneath what's happening here and what's the genesis, because in both sides there's a kind of a movement towards spiritual or divine, whatever you want to call it, and then how does it diverge? Why does it diverge?
Mm-hmm. It's somewhat,
okay,
yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thanks, Joe. Check me up then, so I get it right.
Okay. And so the course I took, it wasn't I don't think abortion was even mentioned, but it was
Okay.
just about, about connecting to the womb. And it began with like kind of remembering our own sort of process of gestation.
Mm-hmm.
And I just had kind of a much deeper, maybe respect for why some people feel uncomfortable about abortion. But at the same time, it did not at all change my thinking that that is a deeply personal decision and not one for the government to make.
Okay.
So I feel like the ability to hold both sides of something really came out for me with that issue.
Okay, so that had broken up. So the 9-month course was about connecting with your experience in the womb. And that helped you give more empathy towards the people who are pro-life. However, that didn't change your political views or your views about abortion, because that's such an intensely personal thing that you don't feel that you should be judging, or any of the government should be judging what a woman decides to do with her body.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I do feel heard. And it's one more thing I'd like to add, where sometimes we hear things about how people on the right are like forcing women to have counseling before abortion, or almost like funeral like things afterwards. And if that's done from a place of guilt and shame, like, I think that's horrible. But I think things like that could be done from a deeper place. And also, I don't know if when people go for like freezing their eggs or for fertility, things like that, if they receive counseling on how many children are out there to be adopted. And I would like to see maybe more unification around issues like adoption and ideally contraception, but that might be hard. Or how do we kind of work together to reduce abortions while not having to change laws to force people into terrible circumstances? I'd like to see more of that in the world.
Okay. So again, I get this recurring theme of trying to dive below the political labeling to really get at and understand the human experience on both sides of the issue.
Yeah.
And that's the essence of what I'm getting right now. I don't know if, is there anything else? What did I miss?
Yeah, and about how I would like to see maybe more like working together around the issue of like adoption, or there's and how women can maybe process even an experience of deciding how to have if to have an abortion or afterwards, that there's ways to process that while in shame place that some of the pro-life side is about.
Right. So again, I hear this other repeated theme of getting beneath and below the chaff and the white noise, and it's about counseling. So one of the issues is counseling. So if somebody comes to want to have abortion and they want counseling, or they're grieving over it, they want to have a funeral, or they want things like that. That's one context. And then that can be positive. But then if they are forced to do that and shamed, then that's absolutely not what we want to do, or anybody wants to do. So it's a question of really trying to contact the individual below there, find out what their values and needs are, and then honor their process. Okay.
Do you feel fully heard?
Fully heard?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. I'll talk to Sophia.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in one of the laws that they have, what's happening in the states is that a lot of the states are passing anti-abortion laws or abortion bans that then they feel will get a positive vote in the Supreme Court, making it the law, the federal law of the land. And one of those, to which I go a little rant, is one where they require an invasive vaginal, medically unnecessary examination. And I feel that state sanctions sexual abuse. And I would take names and numbers, and every legislature who did that, I would charge them with rape. It's got to stop. It's just got to stop. The question about the pro-life is that unfortunately there are many people there who just want to punish women. And I think that's got to be said, and that's got to stop. The time for that is over. I'll stop there.
Right. So are you saying that they are doing invasive examinations on already pregnant women?
Yes.
Or on every woman in general? Just to clarify.
Sure. To clarify, the law says, and there was one like this in Virginia before, any woman seeking an abortion has to have literally a probe in her vagina, medically unnecessary. So she has to submit to that physical abuse in order to get an abortion.
Oh, right. Okay. So she has to, in order for her to get an abortion, she has to go through this kind of examination that you feel is unnecessary, and it's kind of a assault. What I'm hearing you say, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's not that I feel it's unnecessary. It's medically unnecessary. By the scientific, medically, it would be like, I'm a man, right? So it's like all of a sudden I go to and I say, doctor, I got a little upper respiratory thing here. He says, well, let's start with the anal probe. I'd feel violated, and I'm sure women do too.
Yeah. So you're saying that it's just unnecessary. It's not your opinion or view. It's just an unnecessary.
Medically.
Yeah.
And when you have examinations that are forced, that's a crime.
When you have
examinations.
Yeah, that are forced, that is a crime, right? Yeah.
Right. Okay, I feel heard. Thank you.
Thank you. So Edwin.
Listening.
I'm just feeling upset about this, listening to this. And sad also, because I don't really understand which sides these people are on, because they are saying that they are on this side of life, but that would mean that they know what that embryo in the womb wants, and that feels abusive to me, to tell somebody that you want to live. I know that you want to live, and they can't be on the parent side because they are not asking them what they want. So I'm not understanding what they are actually. Who are they empathizing with? I don't understand that.
So you're really wondering, like these officials or the pro-life, or like who are they empathizing with? It's like how do they know what the embryo wants? How can they empathize because they don't know what the embryo wants, and they're not really listening to the parents or people who would be parents? Like they're not empathizing with them, and you just can't understand, like, what do they want? Where are they coming from? What is it that's, you know, maybe a value to them? And you just feel sad, maybe even upset by all this.
Yeah, it just seems to me like they are maybe empathizing with the people who are also against abortion. Because those are the only people that they can understand, but they are not empathizing with the actual people who are supposed to make these decisions.
Yeah, so it's like the people who are making these laws, you're just wondering, who are they really listening to? Who are they really empathizing with? And they don't seem to be empathizing and listening with the people who are making these decisions. They don't seem to be really listening and trying to understand and sort of incorporate what they're, and you're just trying to, you're just like wondering, who are they empathizing with? Is it just other people who have this view, or it's like maybe you would like them to empathize with everyone in a sense?
Yeah, because what I see in the world is that these people are really angry. I don't know if this is the truth, but that is what the media is showing. They are really angry about something, but are they angry with people because they don't agree with them, or what are they actually angry with?
Yeah, so when you see this debate and these discussions in the media, you see that there's a lot of anger, and you're just unclear, like, where is this anger coming from? Who are they? Why are they angry? What are they angry about? It's just, and you're just wondering where that anger comes from.
Exactly. Yeah, and now I'm thinking, what kinds of needs are unmet for them? Because they're clearly angry and upset about something, but what do they actually need?
Yeah, so you kind of see that, oh, they're angry about something because maybe their needs aren't being met, and you're just like wondering, what are those needs that are not being met? And you just have a real desire to understand that, and it sounds even like some sadness about that their needs are not being met, or just the disconnection that's happening.
Yeah, I feel heard. There seems to be a need for me to understand this, and so.
So you have a real need for understanding, so feel heard as well. So, okay, well, I'll speak to Ellen then. Yeah, this is, there's so much strong feelings, about this topic. There's been shootings, killings of doctors, and, and the discussion gets so heated, and there's just so much, like Sophia is saying, so much anger and passion on this topic.
Yeah. So you feel like this is a topic with so much energy and passion and intense emotions behind it. Even doctors are being killed in life, and you're feeling all the intensity that's there.
Yeah, so it's a good topic for Empathy Circle to kind of bring this into having a container to sort of hold a discussion. So I think an Empathy Circle is a good container to hold these discussions.
So because of that intensity, you feel that it's a very good topic for an Empathy Circle.
And Sophia, that I had when I was in college, also a partner. She had an abortion, so which I was kind of responsible for the pregnancy, And you know, if it's for me too, I know if that hadn't have happened, it would have like totally changed my life. It's like I was not ready for it. It would have changed the whole trajectory of my life. So I was, you know, I really support the, you know, have kind of experienced it, and I have family members too who have had, you know, abortions, and it was so, you know, I feel pretty strongly, you know, for the pro-choice side, yeah, because I've seen the consequences, and can just imagine, you know, what would have happened otherwise.
And you've known people, including a partner you had when younger, who have had abortions. So you feel, you know, a personal connection to people who have been really helped by having the ability to make this choice.
Yeah. What's coming up is about the, you know, there's this notion of the sanctity of life, you know, a sense of warmth and care towards humanity, and seeing that, you know, that I think maybe that's maybe where you were sort of going with that class, that there's a certain feeling, and to have that sort of, you know, there's sort of a feeling of care and love and connection, you know, with the baby, or, you know, and like taking that all the way back to an embryo, and there's this emotional sense of innocence, and that somehow that an abortion sort of ruptures that feeling. So I could see that people could get very upset if they just think that this is, you know, this care and this love is something that's sort of being disrupted. So I have some understanding for that on the what I think would be the what I've heard from the pro-life side.
So when feeling into kind of how the pro-life side might see it, you can see thing about the sanctity caring for a baby, and even before, when the baby is an embryo,
Yeah.
feel that some of that might be motivated by caring.
Yeah, but
did I hear you?
Yeah, that's it. There's that sense of care, and that sort of that disruption of that care. But then it seems to, for me, it always comes to like the like, when is something viable? When is it conscious? You know, I can't say that there's a cell. You know, I can't say that all the cells in my body are, you know, beings. You know, I don't know. There's so when is sort of when are some cells sort of viable? And that seems to be the core issue for me, and it's a difficult sort of a point to. Yeah.
So you have some difficulty with the concept of like when is something viable? When is a group of cells? You know, maybe when does it really cross the line to be
conscious, maybe. Yeah. So I feel heard. I feel fully heard. Thank you.
I don't know. I'll speak to Sophia, or everyone. But
right before
I'm remembering.
Before we start, is it possible for you to sort of shut down some programs, because I really want to hear you, and sometimes the video goes kind of.
I see. Okay, what might be better is if I log in from another computer.
Or you could turn off your video for the because it seems to be a bandwidth issue. If you.
Oh, okay.
You just hit stop video, and I think that'll give us better audio.
Okay. All right. Is this better now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Much better. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. I'm remembering something that I read from just someone whose email list I'm on about her journey with abortion, and she actually waited. She waited a bit, and the reason she waited was she wanted to connect with the soul of of the child that she was carrying, and make sure that it was okay with the soul. And she felt, she felt for months that she didn't get that connection. And then at one point, just in time, she felt she did the line of thinking that, even as something has developed a bit, it can't be taken, is overlooking a spiritual aspect that sometimes a soul understands that it can be okay to go back to where it came from and to continue its process at the right time. And I think that sometimes the side that claims to be so spiritual is actually overlooking some of the spiritual aspects that can bring peace around this. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you say is that you have had a friend who actually waited until the soul in her womb was kind of developed enough to speak to her, and the kind of message that she got from this being was that it's okay for it to wait and continue its journey in another direction. Is that what you said?
Yeah, it wasn't someone I knew. It was just someone who shared her story with her email list. But yes, in the sense that the soul sometimes really has a lot more understanding of what the woman might be going through than, say a politician in another state or something. Yeah, and also sometimes I see from the pro-life side, like a sense of such righteousness that doesn't necessarily serve well for being understood.
Okay, so you're saying that sometimes the sense of righteousness overrides people's needs of feeling understood. Is that what you're saying?
Well, that maybe that the sense of righteousness can really impede their being understood.
Yeah, impede. I get the sense of what that means, but are you meaning it trumps their sense of being understood?
Well, maybe like within them, they feel that they're being so intense in order to get understood. And I think all sides are really like this. But then the end result is less understanding because it kind of comes across so intensely and so angrily, which it's not that it's not justified, but it can result in much less understanding occurring.
Yeah. Okay. So you mean that when people are so passionate about being right, it sort of overrides understanding, and that whole, they're more concerned about being right than understanding each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel heard. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Bill.
Okay.
I just feel very touched when Ellen was talking about this woman who actually waited to communicate with the being inside of her. I almost wanted to cry when I heard that, because that just felt very respectful to me, and that she even tried to communicate with that being. And it just seemed as even though this could be right, or it could not be right, but it just felt like a sense of respect for that being that was growing in her.
So I sense kind of a similar feeling that Ellen said, as far as going deeper in this issue. And so when Ellen told the story of that woman who kind of like got in touch with the soul of, you know, the fetus and asked, that touched you deeply, because I think that, that it seemed that the human connection, also the vulnerability, the fact that you would talk, what if the being said, no, I got to come out, and that's not what you said. So there's a vulnerability, there's to being wrong, and it's to being open, and it's also trying to really listen to the soul inside her. So that touched you very much.
Yeah, and I also think that because doing an abortion myself was actually very, very emotionally painful. It was one of the hardest things I've ever had to decide on, and I don't think about it that much now, but it was heartbreaking to me to make that kind of decision. But it just felt comforting to hear that Ellen talk about this, because that soul maybe continued through another hole. I just want to say, but you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. Okay. So you're relating, and you're feeling some processing and validation from your own experience about abortion, from this woman's, spiritual contact, and also the fact that it opened up the possibility that you just didn't shut something off from a being or a soul, that there might be other alternatives or ways to grow and things like that in the universe. And so that we might say fecundity or of the universe is very comforting to you.
Yeah, what I'm also seeing, like a metaphor of it, is because I love plants, and if you want them to grow a certain way, sort of like I have a tree right next to me, and in order for it to grow upwardly and to keep the sort of, I just want to show it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
In order for it to look like this, I have to sort of cut these leaves so that it becomes fuller here, so that the energy of producing leaves goes up here. And I just see that happening with the soul also. Sort of like if I cut it off here, it will grow somewhere else that maybe suits better for that soul.
Mm-hmm. So you're not seeing the cutting or the trimming or abortion as an end, but rather a transfer of energy, and that coincides with your view of the universe.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I just feel sort of floopy that this metaphor came to me. But you know what I mean about floopy, flaky?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like, I feel a little embarrassed about that, but it just came to me as a kind of inspiration.
Okay. So what you're also realizing when you say flupia, I interpret that to realize it's going outside the bounds of what we call rigorous scientific knowledge now into an area of speculation. However, there's something to that. You don't dismiss it. You feel that it's very important.
Yeah, and maybe it is scientific because plants, the life energy that plants have, we also have that. So maybe it can be scientific also.
Right. So even though it hasn't been necessarily proven scientifically, but you feel that that does have scientific validity. And there are things that indicate in your studies and research that indeed it might be very scientifically valid.
Yes. Thank you. I feel heard.
Good. Okay. All right. Ellen? Are you there, Ellen?
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. Thanks. Would you listen to me then, please?
Okay.
Thanks. Okay. Wow, we're getting into metaphysics. And I actually happen to agree with Sophia. My view of the universe is that the universe is much vaster and much more complex than we can understand. Also, vaster and more complex than the systems we've set up to look at the universe are. So in other words, the universe not only is greater than my perception, but also scientific perception.
So you feel that the universe is much more vast and complex than anyone can perceive, an individual or even, what's considered the scientific community. It's almost like undefinable.
Right, and that's from the scientific community, by the way. We talk about multiverses, you talk about quantum theory, quantum foam, and things like that, and all sorts of uncertainty, where, Schrodinger's cat, where the cat can be alive and dead at the same time. That's a real scientific concern. And so the metaphor that I came up with is the relationship of, like, say, a stomach cell or one cell to you. Does your stomach cell know how to do differential calculus or appreciate an opera? No. It's mostly concerned with creating mucus so that it doesn't get burned up by hydrochloric acid. Nevertheless, you exist in a beautiful concert with this stomach cell. If that stomach cell decides to get cancer, you might die. If you decide to throw yourself off a bridge, the stomach cell might die. So that's how I look at the universe, so that understanding the universe is not necessarily nailing down quote unquote facts, but understanding a process towards growth.
So your understanding, let's see. So you began with speaking about the cells in the body and how, kind of each cell has like its own assignment, and it's kind of concerned with what its function is. And could you repeat again the last thing that you said?
Well, just to take off where that cell is, can that cell understand me? Differential calculus, all the things I do, the best way to get to the pizza place, or something like that. Yet we exist in some sort of harmony. We exist, and that's the way I look at the God or all that is or the universe. I'm like the cell, And for me to try to understand or tell you what it's like, even though that's what I'm doing, is a fool's errand.
I see. So like the relationship between something that someone might be a part of and the whole.
Right. And so therefore it's understanding the process of growth rather than arguing over perceived facts.
I see. So how understanding the process of growth is maybe more functional or more wise as you see it for the whole than, say, arguing over differences in perception.
Right. And in that greater context, you know, one of my teachers said, you're as dead as you'll ever be right now.
You're as dead as you'll ever be.
Yeah, okay. Thank you, Ellen. I feel heard.
Okay, thank you. So my turn to speak now?
Yep.
Let's see. Guys, I wish for a world with.
Who are you speaking to?
I'm sorry. I'll speak to you, Edwin.
Okay, listening.
Yeah, and you know, I so much appreciate what you do. You know, this is the first one of these that I've had time to be on. I see your emails, and I feel like we all have a lot more in common than we don't. And if anything, I feel that some of the people, you know, from the pro-life perspective are kind of having their own emotions maybe manipulated by political forces. And I just feel really sad around that, you know, yet at the same time, maybe recognizing, you know, that that's an element of me saying that, you know, my political views are right and their political views are wrong.
Well, maybe I can reflect that back. So the first thing I was hearing some appreciation for what we're doing here, you know, the work I'm doing with these empathy circles. The second point after that was about that everyone, there's a commonality. You're seeing sort of this common humanity that we have, and that the people who are on the pro-life side might be being manipulated by other people, you know, about their views. However, then you're also kind of wondering if perhaps maybe that's just sort of a judgment that's maybe an inaccurate. On one hand, you sort of think that, on the other hand, perhaps that's not accurate, that maybe, yeah, that's sort of what I was getting.
Yeah, and I do think there is some manipulation going on. I mean, perhaps on all sides. I guess just recognizing, you know, that maybe I do have a view that as much as I can understand someone's discomfort with abortion at any point, I just feel like it's nobody's call to make except the person whose body it is. And I feel like it's very possible to hold both of those feelings at the same time.
So really, it's kind of at the core, you just feel that it's up to the person whose body it is to make the decision, and that I think there was also, you're starting with that maybe both sides are being could be manipulated. I mean, there's that was that it was that aspect of manipulation, but in the end, it's really about the person whose body it is to make the decision. For you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do think in the political world, you know, that issue, it's kind of used as, you know, vote for this person no matter whether they have integrity or not, even if it is, you know, so because they will protect our right to choose. But, you know, it doesn't matter how corrupt they are and the rest of. And I hope it's okay to say there's one candidate that I feel really drawn to that I've been listening to for several years, Marianne Williamson, and I feel that potentially more than the others on divisive issues that she can really hold both sides. I listened to her speak about the Course in Miracles, and when she kind of recounted a talk that she gave where the issue of abortion was brought up, and she just asked people to like kind of be silent for a couple minutes, and how she was able to get to like a deeper level of discourse. And I've heard her say that she's kind of horrified by casual abortion. And I think that she might be able to speak to all sides with respect, while politically she's absolutely and completely pro-choice.
Okay. So the first part was about the manipulation. So maybe a politician, they could be, you know, a terrible, you know, person, but they say they're pro-life, and that's the way would get support. And so people would just vote for them, even though they're doing maybe
right. Pro-life or pro-choice.
Yeah, they're doing dishonest things, could be corrupt or whatever, but people would just vote for them around this one issue. And then the other piece was one of the presidential candidates, Mary Ann Williamson, that you see her as someone as a candidate who could maybe sort of bridge this divide. And just from the talks that you've seen her give, that she really had, you know, a lot of respect, or, you know, sort of a way of going to the deeper issues and sort of bridging the divides. And so you have maybe some hope in her as a candidate.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you. I feel heard.
Okay. Then I'll speak to Sophia.
I'm listening.
Okay. Yeah, it's interesting because I was just at a political conference, the Democratic State Convention here in San Francisco. And Marianne Williamson was there, and we have a photograph with her holding up a sign. We had our empathy t-shirts. Lou and I were there, and she's holding up a sign that says, "I support a culture of empathy."
Yeah, so you're feeling happy about meeting her and holding up the sign of
supporting a culture of empathy.
Supporting the culture of empathy together with her. So yeah.
But in terms of candidates, I'm a little skeptical of all of them. Unless they do an empathy circle, I'm not going to vote for them. I'm trying to get them to take part in empathy circles, and I tried to talk to her about that, but she wasn't. She was like busy and stuff. So for me now, I want to see the candidates actually not talking about empathy, but I want to see them take part in an empathy circle.
Yeah. So you are feeling that you can't support any politician if they are not actively engaging in doing empathy, not only talking about it, but sort of like showing that they understand what empathy is about. Yeah.
But they will do a practice of it. I'm just tired of, even Barack Obama was one of the inspirations I had for the empathy work. He talked about empathy deficit, but it didn't work because I don't think he had the practice. You know, if he would have sat down and done an empathy circle with the Republicans and demonstrated it in the White House, then we would have gotten somewhere. But just talking about it and saying, "Oh, we need to be more empathic," is just not. We need some real practices, and I see what we're doing here is really a core practice that, yeah.
Yeah. So is it that you can't really be convinced by Barack Obama because he's only talking about empathy, but he's not actually doing it practically, and until he sits down, well, he's not in the
Yeah.
president anymore, but if he had sitting down with the Republicans and done the actual empathy with them, then you
then I'd be more impressed. Then I'd maybe vote for him. So we have all these candidates. So I do want to reach out. You know, Bill was there too. We both had our empathy T-shirts, and we had a couple other people. And we're, you know, just talking to people. You know, offering empathy, offering listening. So I've had our signs, sort of advocating. So we are trying to take it into the political world, where I really think this practice, you know, belongs. Is needed. Let me say, but this practice is needed in the political world.
Yeah, so you are out there trying to demonstrate empathy towards people, trying to sort of drag them in and show up as an empathic person, because you feel that is needed in the world.
Yeah, and in the politics, you know, that we can move this. That's what I like about Extinction Rebellion. They're moving these issues into politics. So, you know, can we move empathy, you know, into politics, and especially this practice of empathy circle practice? Can we move that into politics?
Yeah. So you're feeling very pleased that you are engaging. What are they called?
Empathy circles.
Extinction.
The people who are advocating.
Extinction.
Oh, Extinction Rebellion.
Yeah, right.
The environmentalists.
Yeah, so you're feeling pleased that you are bringing that out to them and making it into a practice, so that you can sort of like move forward with bringing out the empathy in political issues.
Exactly. Yeah, I feel very heard. Thank you.
Okay. Who haven't? It feels like I've been talking to everybody.
Keep talking. Whoever you want.
Okay, Ellen. Or did it? No, you talked to me. Yeah, so I talk to you now.
Okay.
I actually feel kind of empty now. It feels like, yeah, we're getting into the more metaphysical and also like the political climate, and sort of like bringing that empathy out in the world, which I very much agree on. We are talking so much about empathy in the world, but I see few people using it. So I really agree with Edwin here that it really has to be a kind of practice where we show people that we actually are capable of being empathic and not only talking about it.
So we talk so much, you kind of see so much about empathy being spoken of, but as Edwin was saying, less about it actually in practice. And that's something that you would like to see and be part of.
Yeah, and especially when people have opposite views on different kinds of topics, because it's easy to be empathic with somebody who agrees with you. It's harder to be empathic with somebody who has a totally different view than you have.
So you're saying that it's easy to agree and to be empathic with someone who has similar views, but much more difficult with people who have different views. So what you would like to see in the bigger picture is more empathy and practice across people, across different views.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And also because I think where people get empathy so wrong is that they think that showing another person that you understand them doesn't have to mean that you agree with them.
Mhm.
And I think people are so scared of actually listening to somebody who you don't agree on, because you think if I listen to this person and I understand them, that has to mean that I agree with them, and that is not at all how I see empathy. It's not about agreeing with someone. It's only about understanding and listening.
Yeah, you see people, you feel like people are afraid to step into that place of empathy and understanding because people might be afraid that if they understand something, that then they're agreeing with it, when we're losing sight of the fact that it can be possible to understand something and still not agree with it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I just want to just say that I this thing that you talked about holding two states at the same time, it feels like we have to practice that more. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're feeling like you're feeling the importance of being able to hold two states or two truths at the same time, and feeling like humanity needs to practice that more.
Yeah, and we need more people in social media who are sort of like what's the word, showing up like people who can do this. Yeah.
And also in social media, you're seeing a need for more people, more voices who show up, who can hold two disparate aspects at the same time with respect. And you see a real need for that.
Thank you. I feel heard.
Thank you. Do I continue now?
We just keep continuing. We have about 20 minutes to go. Or
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess on that, kind of on that same.
you just need to select someone.
Oh, okay. Sorry. I'll speak to Bill.
Okay.
So yeah, on that same theme, I mean, that feels so important across so many issues of really, holding all aspects without jumping to a judgment or a defense or a reaction. And it seems like humans, both personally and collectively, politically, kind of repeat the same reactionary behaviors over and over and over.
So you were saying that you really appreciated what Sophia said about the state of being able to hold two contrasting views, in the same person, and not coming or jumping to judgments and conclusions.
Yes. And it does seem like there's a real, a deficit of quality empathy and listening, even though it might be talked about here and there. And I don't know, I kind of see us, in America about to go through another election cycle with maybe some of the same mistakes as the last one. And I have some fear around that.
So you also took Edwin's point about the fact that people talk a lot about empathy, but very few, many fewer are doing something about it. And then you're concerned about the upcoming election and also how that affects the psyche of the American public.
Right, yeah. And I see us maybe about to make the same mistake of the last one. Anyway, I'm sorry, but I'm grateful to be here. I'm glad I took the time for this. And I take some hope from people, scattered through the country and the world who really do want to listen. I don't think it's reached public discourse enough, but I do take hope from the people who want to listen, even when it can be difficult.
So you're happy that you came and you participated to actually experience this, and that you think that there's more of this type of thing that needs to go on, and you take some comfort from there people around the world who are proposing this. And then the other thing is that also that people have the courage to understand that empathy is not agreement too, which is something I missed before, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, I wonder if it ever had. I wonder how. I guess I haven't seen other circles, but I would like to see where people who are very, very deeply entrenched in activism on both the pro-life and the pro-choice side speaking together, as well as Israel, Palestine, and things like that. There's almost maybe a fear when I think of how those energies might meld together because they can be so intense. But I feel like that's where a lot of the healing for the world is.
So you liked this process, and you feel that it would be applicable to some other hot button issues like the Israeli-Palestinian issue, and that it needs to be applied. And you'd like to kind of, for your sense, I guess, you'd like to test it out and see what happens, see how effective it is.
Yeah. And I believe that if we could touch there's holding both sides of things, but then there's holding both sides of things when people are really, really deeply affected and deeply intense about the issues. And I feel that if the human race can be able to do that peacefully, that's where a lot of healing can be.
Okay. So you're looking at the process of reconciliation and talking as actually being an end in itself, as far as a model for how human beings then can work out their differences peaceably with understanding.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, potentially, yes. Thank you. I feel heard.
Okay. All right. I'll talk to Edwin.
Listening.
So I heard a lot of things. I certainly, like I said, before, that I'm not an advocate of abortion as a preferred way of birth control. But when Marianne Williamson, made that thing about casual abortion, for 37 years, I was a special education teacher. in the more intense, in hospitals, psychiatric hospitals and things like that. And when a young woman, it seems casual, or like there have been always these famous stories about a woman, feels like she has to go to the bathroom and then she gives birth or something like that. These kind of crazy stories. That is the end of a long cycle of abuse, that a young woman should be so out of touch and so malinformed about her body that she would not do that or do the abortion. What I've seen in situations where like a mother has had a lot of abortions, you see a very, very damaged individual who doesn't have any sort of context or understanding or even an experience of empathy in her own life that she can extend. So a lot of times when you hear these things, these people are they've been very, very hurt. And it's almost like I didn't expect my special ed students to understand everything I did. And when I encountered these families, I didn't agree with their choices, but I tried to understand the context in which they've taken place. I'm speaking to Edwin.
Oh, okay, so I think I'm getting that you're feeling uncomfortable with like that Marianne Williamson's comment, sort of a judgment, like, oh, we shouldn't be doing this as a means of abortion as a means of contraception or something. And it's sort of it sounds like you're concerned that it's sort of not really hearing where people are, that you're saying the people who are using, abortion, there's a whole story behind it, and not to be judging them about what they're doing. And you're giving all the different examples of the people who might be having really difficult times in their life or haven't received empathy, and there's maybe more understanding needed instead of sort of a judgment.
Yeah, it's like I do have a judgment. I mean, I don't think like if you're going to get an abortion, 4 or 5 times a year, there's something wrong. And there's a judgment about that. I could, help that, and I would have that. And certainly, if I had a family that where that were occurring, I would find a way to counsel them for alternatives. No question.
Oh, okay. So you do actually have a judgment, like somebody's just having abortions, all the time, that you would want to have that person, do something about that and have them do counseling. And so. Right.
And what you really reflected well was the fact of the damage, the backstory there. I mean, I think anybody who watches this and listens to the personal stories of the women who've had abortions or have talked to people who have had abortions, or your experience, Edwin, will see that this is not a walk in the park. This is not an easy thing. This is a painful and has its own aversives, built in. So, and I feel that that's what's sort of being missed many of the time.
So really seeing the backstory of everyone's life is kind of being missed. It's like you're not seeing sort of the nuances and the wholeness of the backstories, the lived experience people have.
And thank you. I feel heard.
Okay. I'll speak to Sophia again, I guess. I think I did last time.
Is it okay if I pass? Because there are so many new English words here. So I'm feeling kind of tired in my head. It's not that I don't want to listen.
Okay,
but
sure.
I don't think I can do a good job at it right now.
Ellen, then, would you listen? Okay. The thing that was, let me hit the timer. The thing that was coming up again for me was sort of the organizational part of it, of the circles, is how to reach out and get those different sides that, actually you were talking about. You want to have more of the conflict, the more extremes, and that's what I would like as well.
So you're speaking of how to kind of the logistics of how to get people who are more extreme on the other side to come to these, because you recognize the value of it. but sometimes you have a difficulty with that.
Yeah, it's sort of the organization, like the empathy circle itself is like about 5% of the work. It's like 90% of it is all the organizational stuff that sort of happens. And, you know, it's like that's one thing that's really needed to kind of get all that organizational part organized, and, you know, how to build a team to do that. And so that's the one piece that, you know, I kind of struggle with, I guess.
So you're saying that the empathy circles itself is maybe 5% of the work, and there's a lot of behind the scenes organization and teamwork, and that's a part that you struggle with.
Yeah. So at this conference we went to, there was Planned Parenthood was there. So I went and talked to them, got the contact info for their sort of their publicity person or someone who's sort of in the organization. And she said, "Oh yeah, you know, send me an email and we can follow up." And I sent an email and I don't get anything back. I don't hear anything back. There's all these pro-life groups, you know, and I go and I post there. I invite them to take part, and you know, you get a little bit of interest, but so it's just all those connections that are needed to bring people together. So I guess I'm talking about the sort of the structure and how to bring, you know, just how to bring those different parties together is a lot of work. And, you know, how to create a team, you know, around that is what I'm looking at.
So you reach out to people and you get, you know, you're told, you know, to write to people, and you do, and you don't get a response, and you post in places that you feel would bring a good mix of different views, but sometimes you feel that there isn't a response, and it's difficult to really gather the critical mass of people.
Yeah. So I guess I'm just sharing that because that's not sort of the struggles, you know, part of the struggles of, you know, organizing this. And so it's almost, I've been thinking that we need almost like a team that works on just one topic, like the, you know, pro-life, pro-choice, abortion topic. People who are really, you know, passionate about this and that can, you know, just sort of stay with it on an ongoing basis, and then have like empathy circles just on this topic, because there's a whole network community out there, and it takes a lot of work to reach out, develop trust, you know, bring the people together, sort of maintain the connection. So I guess I'm just sort of sharing some of the background, you know, organizational stuff, also putting it out there in case people want to sort of help with it too.
So you're sharing some of the background and the things that you have to do from an organizational standpoint, as far as reaching out to people and trying to develop like a sustainable, maybe continuous conversational network. And you're also putting it out there because those are things that you could use help with. Yeah.
And it seems like each topic, each theme almost needs its own community. So if there's a topic someone is excited about, be it healthcare or the environment or whatever the issues are, gun control, it needs its own community to work on that topic, to bring the sides together, you know, develop relationships. And so I'm just kind of brainstorming here, you know, how to move forward.
And you're saying that it almost seems like each particular issue, you know, needs its own community to kind of build the networks for conversations within that issue, whether it's pro-life, pro-choice, or gun control, or whatever it is. You know, people who are familiar with and drawn to that issue to work on that specifically.
Yeah, exactly. I feel very, very well heard. Thank you.
Okay. Are we out of time, or?
I think we have one more. You can speak. I think we've got about 5 minutes.
Okay. let's see. So I'll speak to you, Edwin.
Okay.
Okay, I really hear you about being drawn to create something in the world and realizing or kind of being faced with a lot of maybe difficult logistics in order to make a dream into a reality. And I really honor you for holding that space and living the dedication and everything that you do.
Okay, so you really have identify with, having an idea, trying to turn it into reality, and just the work involved in that. And so you're sort of honoring that work and the vision.
Yeah. And, sometimes I have interesting ideas as far as bridge building or making connections and things like that. On the other hand, I can be really terrible with time, and I hesitate to be one of those people who jumps up and says, I'm going to do this and this and this, and then ultimately it doesn't happen. But, I would like to be in touch as is realistically possible. Maybe even just sharing, if it's okay, just sharing that your group exists. Maybe not say committing to being a point of contact, but just sharing that your group exists. I remember seeing a Facebook post for, it was at a time in the morning that I would not have been able to make it, but it was I think it was like kind of a defending abortion clinic protest. And it was called This Church Harasses Women, and it was like a counter protest of, a church group. And I went and I looked at, the church group, and I looked at their website, and I don't know the specific people who were doing this particular action or could speak on that, but it seemed like the church group was doing some really good things, including around immigration and helping disadvantaged people, and a lot of issues that the abortion protesters might have agreed with. And I don't know how the action turned out, but I could imagine a lot of anger on all sides. But.
So you're talking about your own, seeing the work here involved in setting this up, that you sort of wanting to contribute, but you also know your own limitations. So within kind of the time and the ability and so forth that you have, that it sounds like you were thinking you could do a little bit, something like maybe spread the word or something. So we're kind of looking at your own kind of availability for that. And then there was the church group. I didn't quite understand that. There was a church group that was trying to do some kind of work, and you thought there was some way that they could be bridging divides too. I didn't quite understand that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'll say that part again. I think it was a group from, I think, St. Patrick's Cathedral, and they were going to kind of have like a pro-life action. And then there was a New York for abortion rights kind of counter protest of that. And it spoke of, the church group in such awful terms on their website. And I saw, they do, immigration work. They do this group seems like it's founded in maybe more principles than the abortion group was giving them credit for, perhaps.
Oh, okay.
And that might be a group to maybe reach out to and mention about the empathy circles. I don't know.
Oh, okay. So you were seeing like a church group that was pro-life, but did they do all these other really positive things that the protesters, the abortion were counter protesting, that maybe they don't see, the all the stuff that this church does, as well as that might be a community to reach out to and invite to one of these empathy circles, for example.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I feel heard.
Okay. So that was, before we go in, does everyone else feel heard to your satisfaction? Anything, you want to say? Okay. So we're gonna close this room and go back to the general room at this point. And let me hit the close all rooms, and you'll see a little thing that says return to main session. It'll move you into it. And okay, great. Did you come to a close in the group? So we want to, I'm going to stop the recording.